All right. Do episode 10 of the Stew Pod starting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Stew Pod episode 10. This is Lou Marconi. You know who I am. I am on the line today with a very special guest, of course, this week. Good friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, the voice of Steel City Wrestling, the voice of ASWA Wrestling, author, as well as the voice of Ring of Honor Wrestling. Jeff Gorman, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Lou. Thanks for that wonderful introduction.
Of course, I put you over.
Yes, as always.
You were the one that needed a microphone to get over.
Definitely. I can't get over without one.
Yes. So, yeah, we're longtime friends, but I want to ask you this because I know we started, we did the first recording. We had to nix that because something happened, a technical glitch. But let's start here. Do you remember when we first met?
I do remember the first time I saw you because I was in the crowd at the ASWA show for the first time, and I think I called you a pork chop.
No, that wasn't when we first met.
But we didn't meet. That's the thing. Then we met at the next show where I went from fan to ring announcer at the very next show. Mm-hmm. And no? Oh, we met earlier than that. What was that?
That was a WWF house show in 1991, years before that.
That's right. So this was at the Richfield Coliseum. How did we meet? I mean, we were in the crowd, but how did we meet?
You were sitting behind me.
Oh.
Ringside. We were at ringside, and I was there with a friend of mine, and you were there with a friend of yours. And this was just as Flair was coming over, and the belt showed up on TV with Heenan.
Yeah.
Right after SummerSlam, and that was right after Warrior got fired because Warrior was replaced by Sid.
Yes.
Against the Undertaker in the casket match. Yeah.
I know. And I remember that was the first time I saw anybody do a choke slam, and it just blew my mind because, of course, I was, up in the crowd with my little tape recorder. I was doing commentary, and I just lost it when Sid choke slammed the Undertaker.
Yeah. So I remember that we saw that. We talked for a little while, and then just for some reason, we went our separate ways, and it was at WWF house show, and then. Years later, you became a ring announcer. I became a wrestler. I was pretty much, 1991. So that was the year I graduated from high school. So I was just a few months out of high school. That's how I was 18.
Now, did you know that you were going to be a wrestler at that point?
I wanted to, yes. Yes. I knew I was going to be a wrestler at 15.
Wow. Because I didn't know I was going to be a wrestling announcer. I didn't know how people got the job of being a wrestling announcer. Even though I was, like I said, I was sitting there doing commentary. It's not like, gee, I hope I can get into wrestling someday. I was just doing it because that's what I love to do. I never sort of even made that connection. I thought I was going to, try to do baseball or basketball, or I didn't know how you got into wrestling.
Well, how did you get in?
Well, I went to that first ASWA show, the one I was talking to you about. I think you and Derek were in the main event against. No, you was that the one against Johnny Paradise and Thunder Morgan?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Because the next show, the first one that I ring announced was Johnny Paradise versus Thunder Morgan because they sort of broke up. So yeah, that show. I had an audio tape, one of those audio tapes of me doing baseball at like a Canton Akron Indians game. And I gave it to Kid Collins just as a sample of my voice and stuff. And he gave me a chance to be the ring announcer on the very next show. And that's how I started back in 94.
Yeah, you just gotta ask people. I think Okerlund was he's from South Dakota. And I guess he was doing something with the same TV station as AWA was. Mm-hmm. And I guess what happened was Vern needed somebody, and he just happened to be there, and he just told him, he goes, "So what do I do? I don't understand." He goes, "Just call what you see." So I said,
Yeah, that's how everybody kind of gets in, but just as a matter of, I think a lot depends on who you get in with. Like I think Gary Michael Capetta in his book, he talked about how he got started, and he was just at a show, and I think somewhere on the East Coast, and hey, they need a ring announcer, and he just got in there, and that ended up being pretty much the major leagues. So you just have to hope that the people you get in with, they kind of go along and they kind of bring you along too, and that really matters a lot, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely it does. I mean, I told Derek and I talked last week, which was really good about it was, because we kind of started at the same time, even though Derek and Kenny were there for a few months before me. But Derek kind of looks at it as the same thing, because I forgot to ask him one question. I hope he hears this, because or answer a question for him, because I asked him, I said, well, when you first met me, what'd you think? Because when you go to the school and you start, you see guys come and go, and you could tell if they're going to do it or not. You could tell. You could just tell if they're going to be any good or not, or if they got any chance or any potential. Some you could see it right away. Some you're like, okay, we got to work with them. Or other ones like, all right, dude, forget it. You're not going to do it. And I asked him, like, hey, what'd you think? Because I thought you had a lot of heart. That's what he said. And the thing is, when I saw Derek and I watched him do his thing, and I thought really, this guy's really good. I said, this guy's a really good athlete. That's the thing that it just impressed me about him. He's really strong too. Kenny just looked amazing. Kenny looked like an Adonis. He had full package. Yeah, he looks better now. 26.
Yeah, he looks fantastic now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could even notice that myself, because I would come down to the gym every Tuesday night. I would write my wrestling column and I would go to the gym, and that's kind of how I started becoming part of you guys' group. And one of the things I could tell as far as who would make it and who would not was who was actually in the ring wrestling and who was sort of hanging out outside just kind of talking or chatting. But the people who were always in there and always getting better, you can tell those were the ones who were going to make it.
Yeah, the ones that were putting in the work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Of course, Chris Harris was one that comes to mind, because not only, he had to be in there because he was driving all the way up from Cincinnati, so he better be getting as much work in as possible, and he was really working hard.
Oh yeah. Him and I teamed up for a little while. We were tag teams for a while.
Really?
Remember that? Yeah.
I kind of don't, but I believe you.
Tournament. We were teamed up for a tournament. It was for the ASWA Tag Team Title Tournament, and I think we lost in the finals to Ishii Dikamatsu and Micro Menace.
Oh wow! I didn't know that they won the belts. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was really one of my favorite tag matches that I was in. One of them. I mean, I had quite a few, and I had a lot of tag partners over the years. I mean, Frank and I are always considered tag partners, but Derek was one of my first ones. I had Black Cat for a while, then Frankie, and then then with Chris Harris for a little bit, and then sometimes with Denny Gregory, which was very unusual.
Yes, definitely. Considering you guys' rivalry as singles wrestlers.
Yeah, which I think Norm liked to do that. That was just the Norm type of booking, like just the odd couple type of tag team. He did that with Frank and I too, because Frank and I wrestled each other many times. But with you, I remember, because I remember meeting you, and I remember, we talked, and I said, you come into the gym. It was on Saturdays too, the Saturday afternoon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I used to come down and train hungover. I didn't care. It's just when you're in your 20s, it doesn't matter. You can do that.
You can do whatever you want in your 20s. Whatever you want. You have the energy, you have the freedom. You can really do whatever you want in your 20s.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you don't think about the consequences. You don't, because you don't.
And you have no perspective at all in your 20s.
No. Well, that's a part of being young. That's really just a part of being young. You have all that. If I could take my knowledge and where I'm at in my career and go back to my 20s, maybe. Right. And have everything I have now and just add 20 years of my life, sure. But yeah, so let me just go ahead and ask you this then, since that's how you got in. What got you interested in wrestling?
Well, actually, it's weird because I didn't really watch it growing up as a kid, because I just never really saw it. I must not have really been watching whatever channel it was on, because I'd always be watching Saturday morning cartoons and stuff. And so I didn't really discover wrestling until I was in high school, and I was a big fan of Saturday Night Live. And then every once in a while, Saturday night's main event would come on. I was like, whoa, look at this. And I just thought, wow, this is really, really cool. And then I got a chance to see it live. Dad took me and my brother Rob to our first show at the Richfield Coliseum in 1985 with the main event of Hogan versus Savage. I mean, you can't get much better than that. And like after I went to that show, I was all the way in ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, because my first live wrestling show was in October of '85. It was at the Cleveland Public Hall. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, the main event was JYD Terry Funk. It was a WWF show.
Wow.
Yeah, JYD Terry Funk. Yep.
And I didn't know that they also did WWF shows up in Cleveland, in actual Cleveland proper. I thought they just went to the Richfield Coliseum.
Yeah, they did. the NWA did shows out of there too. And I went to an NWA show where the main event was Ric Flair and Magnum TA for the NWA belt.
Wow.
The NWA title. Yeah. I remember the whole show because Lawler was on the show too. Well, Jerry Lawler beat a local guy on the show. Yeah.
That's kind of strange to have Lawler. Of course, Lawler, a big Cleveland guy, a big Cleveland fan, that is. But I didn't know he was up in Cleveland doing NWA shows.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was in late October of '85. It was right after they did the angle where Dusty's ankle was broken in that cage when Flair put the figure on him and all that, and Four Horsemen turned on him, and it was leading up to the Starrcade match. It was around that time. Yeah, so it was like Starrcade. It was around that time because I remember because it was Flair and Magnum in the main event. Dusty Rhodes was in his corner.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was. It was. I remember because there was a tag match. It was Jimmy Valiant and Sam Houston against Ole and Arn Anderson.
Nice.
Yeah, the opening match was Pez Whatley against Crusher Khrushchev, which was Barry Darsow. Yeah. Yeah, so that was that. So there's some. I remember that show. Ronnie Garvin and Tully Blanchard.
Wow.
I mean,
that's a great show right there.
Yeah, it's just like whoa. I mean, just the quality back then was just amazing.
I think we had all three titles on the line in that first show that I saw, not just Hogan and Savage, but I think we also had Tito Santana against Cowboy Bob Orton for the IC title. And, of course, Demolition the British Bulldogs against the Dream Team for the tag team title, all on the same show. So no wonder I was hooked. It was like a loaded show for a Richfield Coliseum house show.
There was, around that time, they did a Richfield Coliseum house show, which was like the day after Thanksgiving. And the main event was Hogan defending his title against Jesse Ventura.
Wow. That's another rare one.
20,000 Richfield Coliseum packed to the rafters. They sold.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
That's when wrestling made money. You know?
Definitely. And it's great how they kept that tradition of having the night of or the night after or the night before Survivor Series or Thanksgiving for the Survivor Series in 87 and 88, and they came back in 92. To be able to go to three of the first six Survivor Series was amazing. Did you go to those?
I was at the first Survivor Series, yes, 87.
Yeah.
I was there for. I was also there for because Andre won the first Survivor Series. Andre won. And I remember just watching it. And then the other one, I was ringside for the 92 Survivor Series. And Bret Hart defended against Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. I
was at that one. And Flair was in the tag match against, it was Flair and Razor Ramon against Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, and Randy Savage.
Yeah, that was supposed to be the main event, but everything got all flipped around. I was at the second one also, the one in 1998. I was on the floor in the 10th row, and that whole Demolition Mr. Fuji angle took place like right in front of me. It was amazing. It was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, they turned Demolition face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. There's all these great memories but it kind of what it draws you in. I was watching wrestling at a very young age because I had a great grandfather that watched it all the time.
There you go.
That's what got me into it. And I was the only one in the family that was a fan of it. They just kind of thought I was crazy for doing it. They just like, so that's awesome. So you got in with Kid Collins, and then I remember after a while, you were also doing articles with the Canton Akron Indians too. Were you doing other stuff as well?
I was doing a lot of local high school sports because my dad taught at Wadsworth, and so they had a local cable system right there in the high school. So I was able to announce the football and basketball and baseball games just right on their local cable system, which was really a lot of great experience. And then, of course, I was able to get the ASWA shows on there as well.
Yeah.
So you guys were on Wadsworth TV all the time.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
I remember what was great too was because I know you grew up in Akron area and was being on TV, but you were also the voice of TV for Steel City in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Steel City in Pittsburgh, and being on TV in Pittsburgh, I think that was more of a UHF station. And it was more of a reach, and there was a lot of people that would. I mean, we would go to bars and restaurants, and people knew who we were. That was the cool part. That was cool.
That was really great.
Yeah, people knew who I was, and I don't know if you think about it, there was a God, there was a time I was not too long ago. I was traveling. I was in the airport in Nashville, Tennessee, and somebody came up to me and I go, "You beef stew, Lou?" And I'm like,
Ah, nice.
I just had this look like, "How do you know about that?" I said, "Really?" I was like, he grew up in Erie. He grew up
All
in Erie,
right.
and he remembered. Yeah,
There
he
you
grew up in
go.
Erie. He'd been to 2 shows. He asked me to get a picture with him and sign something for him, so I did. I was like,
Yeah,
all
it
right.
would have been great if that TV show could have lasted longer because I think we were on for a while with the Steel City, and then when we did the PWX invasion angle, that was on TV for a while too. Would have been great if
Yeah,
that could have kept going, but it was really nice while it lasted.
we did that PWX invasion angle. That was pretty. That was a hot angle.
That was
Thing is,
red.
nobody there really trusted us when we were there.
Right. Yeah, there was definitely an us versus them mentality in the ring and in the back.
Well, I do remember that that I wouldn't have trusted me either. So I don't blame.
That's so funny. Their mistrust was well founded. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll never forget. I will never forget. This is the greatest story. Norm gave me directions to get to the show, and it
Mhm.
was so screwed up, and I was so late. And I was so mad. I
Oh,
got, and the first match was just hitting the ring when I got there. That's how
mhm.
late I was. And they're, hey Lou, you're next. And you're supposed to all ribbon me, which I knew I was last. I was the last. I was like, shut up. I
Right.
was like,
Well, people like you and me back then with no, we weren't driving around with a map. We didn't have any kind of GPS. People from Ohio, we didn't realize that in Pittsburgh, up is a direction. So you're
yes.
not just going north, south, east, and west. You're also going up and down and around. And it's like we're not used to having 7 different directions instead of
Oh,
4.
well, I'm not flying a plane here. What are you talking about?
Right.
Driving a car. The
Oh my
helicopter.
goodness.
Yeah, even better. Yeah, plus two, Norm and I talked beforehand. I guess he set this up, and he's like trying to help us, help Frank and I get over work because I think because the thing I was always told because ECW Tommy Dreamer at ECW told me I needed to get work
Mhm.
more matches under my belt. I needed more experience. I was
Yeah.
still, and there was a chance for me to do that. And all I remember was Norm go. He's like, don't have an ego. And I'm like, I'm fine. No, I won't. No, I won't. It's okay, Norm. It's okay. It's okay. And really, that there's just Norm saying that to not have an ego. Just be cool when you're there. And I was.
Yeah.
But all I remember was the whole the mic. Do you remember? I don't think you were there. It was in August of '96. Everybody got on the mic, and I'm sitting there going, "How am I going to get myself to stand out and get over here? What's the best thing I can do?" Was it not talk at all? But I had to do a spot with the mic. So what do I say that would make me stand out? So I had to say, "I don't need a microphone to get over," and I handed the mic back, and it was just like. I guess everybody popped when I did that. They was like, "Damn, that was funny."
Right. Nobody ever says stuff like that. I
Nothing.
remember Reckless Youth used to do that sometime, and it would just blow people's minds. I remember one time Reckless had the mic. He says, "Man, that got over like a fart in church," and I just couldn't believe you said that.
Well, no, when I did it, and it was just like this, just a shock. I was like, that was good because then after that point, I did not talk. I was the only one that didn't talk, and
Yeah, that's how you stand out.
it worked because
Mhm.
it's the adage: if everybody's brawling, you wrestle. If everybody's wrestling, you brawl. If everybody's talking, you don't talk.
That's
Hit the
right.
ring straight in, straight out. Nobody goes around slap hands. Just
Uh-huh.
boom, that gets over. So you got to figure out ways to make yourself stand out. And I think that goes hand in hand with broadcasting too, because some of the best broadcasters that you remember, they had their own personality.
Yeah.
That like John Madden doing football. He just had his own way of doing it. Or
Uh-huh.
he's more of a color guy, not some of the best, baseball people out there, like Tom Hamilton for the Indians, is one of the best. He's
Oh,
fantastic.
geez. He's wonderful.
Yeah, he's a great way of doing it. Just because I've heard a lot of really good broadcasters over the years, and that's just kind of one thing you figure out a way to make yourself stand out and everything
Yeah.
else.
And
Unless,
that's one of the hard things about being a broadcaster is there's not that many spots open, and when somebody's good, they tend to stay employed for like 20, 25, 30 years. So there's not always, so your upward mobility is really kind of limited sometimes, but by the same token, if you can somehow get in, then maybe you can have the same broadcasting job for decades. It's hard. It's not easy at all.
You got to be good at it. Yeah. There's, God, who's that guy? Like with wrestling too. I remember, I honestly, just with the wrestling broadcasters, did you have anybody that was your favorite that you like to listen to?
Yeah. Gorilla Monsoon. He's always been my favorite. He just brought so much realism and just so much credibility considering that he was a wrestler. And he not only knew all the names of the moves, he also knew like how much they hurt and what part of the body they affected and stuff. So you really that's what I want to learn from a broadcaster is tell me something that I don't know. Explain something to me that's going to add to my knowledge. And somebody who strikes me as the same way in football is actually Bernie Kosar. I loved listening to Bernie Kosar, do the commentary on the Browns preseason games because he taught me stuff. He told me stuff that I didn't already know. And, somebody like that, someone who's really an authority and can really explain something new to the audience, that's what I always gravitate to as a broadcaster.
Speaking of that, because I remember watching preseason games when Bernie did it, and he could see what the defense was set up in, and he would actually, you believe it or not, he would audibilize it on TV. He says, I would check down no run here. Look at the way they only got 4 guys in the box. Look at how the defense is spread out. Get some yard. And just the way he goes, I've run it. You ever hear him do that when he does that? He was talking. Yeah, it's just amazing. It's just like,
it just shows you how intelligent he is. I mean, he has that kind of intelligence and field of vision, and kind of the same way that we've heard. Of course, you're not never in anybody's head, but the same way LeBron James is. I mean, he's obviously an amazing athlete, but he's also a savant mentally in that he can see everything and knows what's all going to happen, and he can even recall individual plays from the past, and it's like all in his head. He almost has a photographic memory about that. So his brain, not just his body, but his brain works on a completely different level.
Yeah. Speaking of which, just you mentioned LeBron. I have a theory about something. Did you see The Last Dance yet? The sport documentary?
No, I didn't. I've been asked that. It's like, have you watched The Last Dance? It's like, I don't know if I could live through all that Michael Jordan dominance again. I mean, it was so heartbreaking over and over. I remember being at work at a Northwestern University. So I'm in Chicago, being a Cleveland fan. It's like the final game. I think it was The Shot. I think it was actually The Shot. I was watching it I was in the language laboratory. So I had it on this game on all these different screens. And then he just stabbed me in the heart right on all those different screens. And I was like, oh my, I was like, I don't know if I can really watch that again.
Yeah,
I hear it's great though.
I was in high school. Yeah, I was in high school when that happened. That was a really good Cavs team too. That was
that was a fantastic Cavs team. That was a team that really could. It's amazing. The one time that we won something was in 2016 with the Cavaliers, which was amazing. The amount of talent you have to assemble to go all the way like that. But if you think about those Cavs that went up against Jordan's Bulls, they were just loaded. And the same way the Indians were loaded in the mid-90s with so much amazing all-star talent that made it to the World Series in 95 and 97 but didn't win it. I mean, both of those teams just had a gigantic amount of talent but just didn't quite get it done.
Yankees were better. The Yankees were better and the Bulls were better than the Cavs. That's really what happened.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll explain it to you. I think I had a theory as to why this was released and this was done because Jordan agreed to do this after the Cavs won it in 2016. That's what I heard. Yeah. And I think what it is that I'm old enough to remember when he played, and so are you. And this the utter dominance that he had. But there's a lot of younger people that didn't see his and see that. Maybe he wanted to reiterate that. To show them who he was and what he was all about, because there's that debate between who's better, him or LeBron. And the NBA was a lot different back then. It's totally different. And I, as a Cleveland fan, and I hate to say this, but I think Jordan was. And I'll tell you why. I feel that way is because I'm wearing a Cavs fleece while I'm talking to you about this. Michael Jordan didn't miss games. He didn't take time. They didn't do that. Nobody did that back then. Nobody missed games. Nobody rested. Nobody picked up and switched teams and tried to put together a super team and win a championship. You gutted it out, you grinded it out, and you won it. And
Right.
that was the difference. And, in their minds back then, champions don't join their rivals, they defeat them. So that's why I feel it's a different era, it's a different time. The other thing about Jordan too is what he didn't get politically involved, and they talked about that too. His thing was, I think he said, Republicans buy sneakers too. That's what he said. And he's actually a Democrat, and he donates his money to Democratic campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
But he just doesn't publicly do anything. He's a very private guy. He's a very private guy if you think about it, because you don't really hear much from him. So,
yeah, that's a good point about people not joining teams, because we think all the way back to like our childhood, you would have great teams and they would have one great star, but other people like around them, like Julius Erving with the Sixers had some great guys with them. And then of course, Larry Bird with the Celtics had some outstanding guys with them. And it didn't seem like, they would just usually just draft these guys, the Lakers with, Magic and Kareem and Worthy. And, somehow they would, they wouldn't trade for somebody. They would somehow just sort of get them, and they wouldn't really move around. You'd have the same team. And that's one of the reasons why I think that the NBA was very good to follow back then, is because you could get familiar with these teams over the years, and it wouldn't change very much. And the rivalries would go on for years, between like the Celtics and the Sixers and the Lakers and teams like that. And they would just sort of remain intact.
And the Pistons and Bulls, those were like death matches. Those were like gorilla ball. You watch those matches.
They would just kill each other.
Yeah, and Jordan had to physically get stronger to get past them. He admitted. Yeah, I remember those days. So that's interesting. Because I was just curious what you thought of, because you brought up LeBron. And don't get me wrong, anybody listening to this, LeBron is probably definitely the greatest player of our generation. And I'm glad he was a Cavalier that he was. I'm grateful he won a championship for the city of Cleveland. Only thing I'm disappointed with, it happened when I was in North Carolina. I was in North Carolina. It happened. But I'm happy it happened. Oh my God. And this is a true story, because it was June 19th, 2016, which is my 43rd birthday.
Mm-hmm.
It was Father's Day. It was my first Father's Day, because Isabella was maybe 9.5 months old. And she was baptized that day.
Wow.
So there was a lot going on that day. And I remember Cue Ball and his wife stood as godparents for my daughter.
Nice.
And it was interesting, because then afterwards I'm cooking out, we're having lunch. They had a birthday cake for me, all this other stuff. This was my birthday thing. And he I was a wreck. I was such a nervous wreck on that game. He said something that kind of calmed me down after that. And I said, yeah, whatever happens, happens. And because I said, okay, how many more chances are we going to get to win a championship? Just get this monkey off the city's back. Let's win one. All right. You know what I mean? That's what I was thinking.
Nice.
And he said, well, I bet you there are 28 other teams that wish they could be playing tonight, Game 7 of the NBA Finals. That's what he said. I was like,
exactly.
Wow.
That was very special in the Gorman household too, because of course, if it was your birthday, that means that it was also Dad's birthday. It was Dad's 72nd birthday. It was Father's Day. We literally had the whole family together. And of course, that was the last Father's Day we had with Dad before he passed away. So, and to be all together and then win the championship, that was, that couldn't have been more perfect.
I heard Cleveland was a big party at that point when that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad you couldn't be there for the celebration. I wasn't in the parade because we were taking our girl to a homeschool thing that morning, but we could see people coming out of their houses, getting ready to get on the bus. There were all these buses going up Brecksville Road, up toward Cleveland. People were just like making a pilgrimage. Everybody was just flooding out of their houses toward the street, ready to get on bus after bus after bus to join that parade. It was amazing.
I listened to it live on iHeartRadio.
There you go.
I did. I listened to it live on iHeartRadio, and I was doing my job in North Carolina. I was making sales calls. I was driving around, and it was interesting because it was an interesting time because it's like I never, finally it happened. Good, there's just because the thing is, when it did happen, I paused for like it might have been 15, 20 seconds, but it felt maybe a little bit longer than that. Okay, this really happened. They're celebrating and everything. And then I cheered. I ran upstairs, told my wife, hugged her. We did it. My daughter was sleeping. And and then I went back downstairs. I lit a cigar on my back porch, and I just kind of
There you go.
just celebrated.
Yeah,
Just
because
window, yeah.
because you have to wait a few seconds and just make sure that nothing screwy happened. There's no like last second, thing. Like, no, it counted. Wow, we did actually win. Now we can actually celebrate. It's like everybody let out their breath.
Yeah, thank God. And I think too, well, this is a true story because my wife was upstairs. She was in our bedroom. She's in bed. She was flipping around. She just let me watch it because she couldn't handle the tension. And Christine was doing that, and I guess she was flipping channels, and she saw it was less than a minute, and we were winning. She changed. She's like, I can't watch anymore. That was it. It was
can't handle that tension.
It was right after.
Some people can't do it. Some people can't watch it because it's just too much.
It's just too much. I had to. I would have gone crazy.
Yeah,
I had to.
Oh,
I had
yeah. You have to.
And it just did that. Yeah, and I made it. I remember telling a coworker that when the Browns take home the Lombardi Trophy, that celebration for the Cavs it'll make that celebration for the Cavs look like an intimate gathering of family and friends.
That will be a worldwide celebration because there are Browns fans all over the world. I mean, if there were 1.2 million people at the Cavs parade, it's like there's gonna be at least 1.5 or 1.6. And it reminds me the one time we took our daughter to the Football Hall of Fame. They had a little thing where you can design championship rings, and she designed the Browns winning Super Bowl 50. I guess I've waited a little bit longer than Super Bowl 50, but the thought is there. Someday we're going to get that.
Well, we could say that. Yeah, we could say that. I would say this is a very talented team. I'm not proclaiming or saying Super Bowls at all. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens. I just said we'll see what happens because NFL is very hard as it is, and this team has talent. There should be. With an added extra playoff team, they should make the playoffs this year. They should just, like I said, there's increments of getting better. And when you're good enough, you are. And that's why I always said, if you're good enough, you are. So there wasn't a curse. I don't believe in that. I think it's just a matter of talent. But to switch gears back now, you did more announcing. You did other high school stuff. Yeah, I remember I got you into Steel City, and I got you.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Yeah, I did that. Well, you did. You returned the favor. I don't know if you know that or not. Did I remember when I called you and told you about this?
I think you did. Yes.
Yeah, because on Jim Cornette's podcast, he kind of said this, and I put two and two together. I'm talking about getting tapes all the time from places, and Jim Cornette watched them. Yeah. Well, you were sending tapes of Steel City and ASWA. Well, it's me and Frank to Jim Cornette and T. Radcliffe and other wrestlers. And Cornette get to Smoky Mountain Wrestling because you're trying to get a broadcasting job at Smoky Mountain. Yeah. And because it was just so obvious, he'd look at it and be like, "From Ohio again?" Yep. And it was just too funny. It's just too funny, and that's why it's like because eventually Jim Cornette was the head of talent relations at WWF at the time, not WWE. It was WWF then, right. And Jim would call me. He booked me. The WWF, so I kept my bookings up with the WWF for a while, and I was happy. Last time I saw him was at WrestleCade. Have you ever been down to Winston-Salem for WrestleCade?
I haven't. I heard that's really a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I wrestled twice on it when I was down. Yeah, what's that?
I got to work with Cornette in Ring of Honor at the event, which was appropriately called Wrath of the Racket. So. He got to insult me on the mic and call me an idiot, so that was a career highlight. Yeah.
That's when you know you've made it.
Definitely.
So let me just go ahead and ask you this: who else have you worked with?
As far as like what
broadcasters that we would know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, what broadcasters? Like commentary partners?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I worked with Mark Madden for Steel City Wrestling.
Yep, I remember that.
And I did 2 tapings with him, and then it was Dave Prazak for the other Steel City taping. And so I think there were like 8 episodes with Madden and 3 with Prazak. And then once we were on PWX, of course, Hotshot Drew Lazario was my partner. And so that's sort of how he kind of got started. Well, actually, yeah, with Steel City and with PWX with him. And then, of course, when I was in Ring of Honor, it was Chris Lovey, which was actually Gabe under a audio hood, I guess. So he was announcing with me and explaining all the storylines in ROH. And then I worked with Jimmy Stafford for Firestorm Wrestling, and that was kind of interesting. You were with Firestorm for a while, where they would have us do the commentary for the live crowd, which was different, and it was tricky. But you have to basically kind of talk a little bit less, so the wrestlers can have their say too.
Yeah, it was interesting because he said something because it came out across. I mean, it was on a broadcast. So I remember when I had my first match back. It was when I first came back. It was like in 2008 or 2009, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm about to lock up. I'm about ready to start my match. And then the guy that you were working with, what was his name again?
Jimmy Stafford.
Jimmy Stafford. Did he say something about my outfit? And he said something. And I stopped and I turned around and I looked at him after he said that. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
And I looked at it and the crowd laughed. Because I had and then you go, he can hear you.
You were probably surprised to hear somebody talking when you were ready to start wrestling.
Yeah, I'm just like what? What did you say? It was just I forgot what he said, and it was just the reaction that was just classic. Because sometimes when you have something that you might have planned everything out, but sometimes you do something like that and it's spontaneous. The reaction you get is great. It's just like,
oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was actually really afraid of me for a while there. And I'm like, I was making it. I was like, really? It was good. It was good. Yeah. So yeah, we did that for Firestorm, and then keep going, man. Who else? Anybody else that I think you?
I think those are most of my regular parts. I feel bad if I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Hang on. I'm forgetting my greatest team from IWC is Joe Dombrowski and Kingdom James. Yeah, that was my main team from 2002 to 4, and we actually worked together a lot, and we really got a lot of great chemistry together. So yeah, the Wonder Trio, me and Joe Dombrowski and Kingdom James. They were my main partners, and it was very rare to have a 3-man booth in the indies, but it really worked very well because I was kind of the play-by-play guy, and then we had Joe as the face color guy and Kingdom as the heel color guy, and it was kind of amazing that an indie promotion would spring for 3 announcers, but it really worked out well because, we would have Kingdom and Joe arguing with each other, but not too much to be annoying, and we all were able to get our roles and our personalities over, and it really turned out to be a great team, and I would really like to see the 3 of us work together in some other bigger companies. And I think it would work really well.
Good. Yeah, that's good. No, because Kingdom, Anthony's a fantastic guy. He's one of my favorite people to work with. And yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Have you had a favorite match that you called? Is there a favorite match or a favorite show?
I think probably the favorite match that I always come back to is for Ring of Honor with Loki against Samoa Joe. Now, you would have loved that. I know it was really a lot like the match you had with Loki and Erie, where you guys were just pasting the heck out of each other. This was that match on just getting a lot more attention because he and Joe were just clobbering each other. And there were times a lot where I would try to stop talking so you could hear like the smack of the flesh because it was really almost like one of those shoot style type of matches that we would have with the game promotion, which worked with Steel City Wrestling. There's the one with Benson Lee and where, there's sort of like UFWI style matches. And that really that puts Joe completely on the map. That was his ROH debut. And he just blew everybody away and got a job and eventually became a very long reigning ROH champion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Samoa Joe's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Never worked with him. Worked with Loki. He was young. He was very young. That's why people are surprised. He put me over. I appreciate anybody that ever put me over. So that was, because I'll say probably my favorite match that I worked. I had a lot of really good ones. I had a lot of fun people I worked with. Don't anybody take it. But I said this once in a Facebook post because I said, who's the best guy I ever worked with? And I said, hands down, Reckless Youth.
Definitely.
Reckless Youth, hands down. And him and I had a chemistry because we only wrestled each other once. It was in that three-way dance where Christian York got in too, and it was like a match.
Yeah.
We rocked the house, and I remember you commentating that match, and you were just like, "Wow!" It was just great, and because I knew we did well because when I saw him afterwards, he had this big smile on his face. He was real happy, and I think later on I ended up winning the Steel City title, Steel City Wrestling Championship with Tom Brandy, and I was kind of trying to push Norm to say, let's Reckless and I do a program over the summer for this belt. We tear down the house every night.
Oh yeah.
And we said Norm wanted to do a different direction, and I didn't agree with it because, well, I didn't agree with it, but I went along with it because he was the boss, which was when I was putting over Denny in non-title matches the whole summer.
Right.
Yeah, that's a disagreement. It's 22 years ago. I'm not going to get like all sour grapes about it. I'll put over Denny. I said, well, I just dropped the belt. I'm losing. Let me drop the belt. No, and then
it seemed like that's what he was building up to, trying to build up to a title match. Like, well, we know that Denny could beat Lou, and it's now, so let's see if that. I think that's what the idea he was going for was.
When it actually happens, it kind of took it away. It's like people were wanting me to get pinned. Well, they see me get pinned. So I mean, that's it. Where else do you go? So we could have built it up. I mean, if you wanted to put the belt on Denny, that was great. I would have lost to him the next show. I would have done it. So you've seen me put everybody over. So it doesn't matter to me.
Who did you eventually put over for the SCW title? I forget.
I think it was Denny.
Was it Denny?
It was Denny. Eventually, it took till about the whole summer. We did a whole summer program on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Denny. Yeah, it was him. So which is great. I was fine to do it. It's just yeah, we could have put the belt back on Brandy. I wouldn't have cared. I mean, I was happy to have it. So, but yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. So, yeah, I remember we were talking earlier before, just switching gears because one of the things that we have to do is always have a good balance of with our personal life and our professional lives. I'm trying to remember because I was at your wedding, and I'm trying to remember what year did you get married? Was it 2002?
It was 2002.
Okay, yeah, it was 18 years ago. So wow, when you just had your anniversary recently, didn't you?
We just had our 18th anniversary on May 4th.
Wow, it was May 4th. All right, May 4th of 2002. I remember being there because mine was June 15th, 2013. Yeah, I waited a long time.
Yeah, got to wait for the right one, and it's all good after that.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you what, having a family and trying to be in the wrestling business, you could do it, but there's a strain that comes with it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's almost like everything would have to work perfectly from a geographical standpoint. I mean, if you can have your family in a certain location and there's a lot of shows close by, then it can work. But traveling too far, it's just not, and that's what happened in 2004. Basically, my wife's like, well, we can't be going to Pittsburgh anymore all the time. And that she was completely right because, we had a 1-year-old and, it was just really difficult for me to be gone. Not that I was gone too much, but or we have to bring both of them. And it was one time that Graceland was 1 year old and I was about to start a match with Chris Hero and CM Punk that ended up being a 30-minute draw, and she needed to be with me and she needed to sit on my lap, which she did. So I had my girl on my lap for the entire match, and she was sort of, chirping a little bit, and so I was really trying to concentrate, and it worked out pretty well actually. But that was pretty much an indication. Same with the ROH show I did in Chicago, where she needed a little bit of exercise, so I had her on the baby backpack that you strap onto your baby's like kind of up above your head, looking straight forward like you. So she was in the ROH locker room with me. I'm getting ready for the show. I've got my baby basically on my head. And those were kind of good indications that it was kind of hard to be doing both of these. And so that's when I came home and wrote the book. And basically since then, I've been announcing wrestling and MMA, but it's been mostly just centered around Ohio as opposed to going to Pittsburgh. Yeah. I think the only times I went to Pittsburgh was, I think I was a guest at Super Indy 5. And then when you and Frank and we all went to Norm's, I guess, retirement show, or Norm's final show. And that's when you guys, when the Browns beat the Steelers and you guys came out to Cleveland Rocks in the Cleveland Browns uniforms. That was so great. I was so happy. It was 2012, if I'm not mistaken. That's the last time I've been in Pittsburgh. It was 2012, because my brother doesn't live there anymore. So I don't think I've been to Pittsburgh in 8 years.
Yeah. Well,
I used to go there all the time.
God, I can't. Last time I was in Pittsburgh was almost 2 years ago. It was Frank and I teamed up. I'm trying to remember what promotion it was, but it was for a show that benefit Zoltan Jugan.
There you go.
Speaking of which, one of the things we should forget, and I don't mean to overlook this, but I didn't know if you knew or not, but gentleman Joe Perry did pass away.
Yes, just a couple days ago, I think. Yeah, it was sad. He was good guy in that scene.
Thoughts and prayers and condolences are with his family. Yes. I do remember whenever he got on the mic, it was funny because he always went, "Hey!"
It was always the first word out of his mouth was "Hey." That was his signature. I don't think he did it on purpose.
No,
I think it was just like you guys pointed out that I would start my matches by saying "Okay." You and Norm noticed that. I never noticed that I would say "Okay" at the beginning of my matches. That's what Gentleman Joe did. He would start all his promos with "Hey."
Hey.
Hey.
It's a song. He's a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to say something like because 2 years ago at that show, Frank and I, his son was their referee, Michael Perry, and he looks just
really. That's nice.
He looks just like his dad, but his dad wasn't there. It was cool. I got to see T. Ranchler. I got to see Norm. I got to see, Frank was there, Cody Michaels, a lot of old phase like Zoltan was there. Denny Gregory and I talked for a while. Dean Douglas and I talked. It was good to see everybody and just get together.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, T.C. Reynolds was even there too. And it was a good time. And like I said, getting back, and people are like, man, I see your family on Facebook. They're beautiful. That's great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. It is one of those things. If you really need. You kind of realize that as time goes on, what's really important and what really everything means. And that's kind of what happens. Cause really, being famous and being a wrestler, it's cool and it's fun and all that. But man, over time, it's the family. It's just having that family and having that bedrock. To me, it's more important than anything. It's my priority.
That's exactly right. In fact, that kind of was the point of my book that I wrote with This Side of the Mic was, growing up, my dream was to be a sportscaster. But ultimately what I discovered was just having my wife and my girl was really the dream. Spoiler alert, in case you want to read that book. That's how it ends. That's how the book ends.
It's a Meccan dream.
That's right.
Meccan dream, that. Well, what was it? I know your brother, he used to live in Pittsburgh, but he doesn't anymore. What's he been up to?
He's in D.C. right now. He's a lawyer for the Department of Transportation. So I would always see him a lot, and I would basically crash with him a lot at those Pittsburgh shows. But now they are off to D.C.
That's cool. Well, how's your sister Becky doing? How's Becky?
She's doing fine. She's big in the she's big in the academic and the theater scene in Denver. She's very highly involved in the Denver theater scene, and she's also she's not just a college professor in Denver Metro State. I think she's the head of the English department, which makes perfect sense. With my dad being an English teacher, my mom being a French teacher, to have Becky, be a really good professor out there and also a playwright and the head of the English department. That's basically par for the course for Becky. They're both quite high achievers, my brother and sister.
Oh, so are you, man.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Of course. No, you do. One of the things I always respected about was the passion you had for this, and you went out there and anybody that wants to do their best and want to better themselves, that's all. That's really you can't help but respect anybody that wants to do that. So you go out there and you put your best foot forward and you do it. And the thing too is, I don't know if it was just having the maturity or what, but when you realize, hey, I'm a father and I'm a husband, I need to do what's right for the family. You do it. You do what's right. Nobody can argue with that. So that's why I do not regret, pretty much hanging everything up when I did, and I'm fine with it. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That just, plus, I don't know. To me, the business was going in a direction I didn't care for.
at that time. I
Mhm.
think with the pandemic and everything that's happened, might be an opportunity to have a reset button on the business to maybe get back to the basics, get back to what it's supposed to be. I don't know.
That
I
would
could.
be great. I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, it's very rare in life and in especially in sports where there's just a big long pause like this. It's a very artificial thing where a bunch of things have stopped and they're going to kind of get started again. And everybody's really got time to assess like what's happened so far and what's going to happen next. And it makes you wonder if things are going to be different. And I think that independent wrestling, once it comes back, could be really, really big. I think individual independent wrestling promotions could be big. And I think that indie wrestling as a whole could be big because we all know that there's a lot of talent out there. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got WWE just stockpiled like way more talent than they needed. And then you've got AEW just starting up from scratch and piling up just a lot of really good and really fun, interesting characters. And like they didn't exist 2 years ago. And now they're like a legitimate number 2 promotion. But yet there's still a lot of others. I mean, just the people that WWE just got rid of. They got rid of a bunch of people. They can go out on the indies once the indies start up again, and they can all make really, really good money. And the way that technology is now where you can stream these matches, you can put them on YouTube, you can build up buzz around different people. I think that if people are smart, they could put together some really good independent wrestling shows, and the fans will find them. They'll make some money.
You there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you catch all that?
Well, no, I like it. I like it. I like with everything as a reset. Well, before I
Yeah.
wrap this up, I appreciate you coming on.
Definitely.
Anything that you want to plug?
Okay. Well, the one thing I want to plug is I want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm not retired as a wrestling announcer. I'm out there announcing whatever I can. Sometimes it's just sort of small wrestling promotions around Ohio. I love them. I love underground wrestling. I love Cleveland Knights Championship Wrestling. And every time I get to announce for them, it's a great, great thing. I just want everyone to know that I'm still there. I'm still shooting for my goals, which are to be the first announcer to make it all the way to WWE, all the way to UFC, and all the way to the Cleveland Indians. That's the goal.
Awesome. Well,
All
any
right.
piece of advice you want to leave with anybody?
What's that?
Any piece of advice?
Well, definitely the advice would be, well, two things. One, like we've just been talking about, always keep your family and your priorities straight. Make sure you know what this means in light of what the bigger things in life means. And, you know, if you're trying to do, and this was kind of the point of my novel, Wrestling is Real, in which you're actually a character, is that no matter what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to be a wrestling announcer or trying to be an astronaut or trying to be a ballerina, you know, keep going for it and don't give up, because you might do it. There may be breaks out there that could be coming your way that you don't see right now. But if you stop, if you throw in towel, it's not going to happen. But if you keep trying, it could happen.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Hey,
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody that listens. I appreciate it. I appreciate your times. Please like and share and subscribe. You listen to the Stew Pod episode 10. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.